Well, welcome back to Morning Express. It is now time for the Dawn debate. Today's focus is on the rising political intolerance despite calls by key political players and their supporters to keep peace. Well, in studio to help drive this conversation, we have lawyer Martin Law and analyst Vincent Kimosop. Gentlemen, welcome to studio.
Thank you.
So let's begin with that wave of political intolerance that we've been speaking about. This was witnessed in areas of Kisumu, Kabarnet and Thika this past week. A lot has been said about it. We even had President Uhuru Kenyatta during the funeral of Joseph Nkaissery urge both his supporters and supporters of opposition leader Raila Odinga to come together and really maintain tolerance before the elections. But Martin, where would you say this kind of political intolerance is springing up from? Is it being used as a political tool, or was it just a spontaneous incident?
I think that there are about three things that you can say over the political violence. One is that the various camps are feeling the heat and that the pressure is on, and people want to demonstrate that there is more that needs to be done. But the second thing really is that it's disruptive. It's disruptive of the normalcy we've seen, because what Kenyans really need is tolerance. We need to hear candidates in a free and fair atmosphere, because then they need to express themselves. These candidates have manifestos, so we need them to express to Kenyans what it is they want to do for them, not to block them. Right. But it's also, the third issue is also a strategy to be disruptive, in the sense that you want to make it look like this stronghold doesn't want anybody else, and that's not the message that we really want to send to Kenyans, because there is no place where you say this is so and so stronghold, because there's likelihood that there will be somebody who will be voting for the other camp anywhere. Or you know, there will be people who will get votes in, who will vote for NASA in Central. There will be people who will vote Jubilee in Nyanza, and therefore let's not see this kind of game going on.
Vincent, what do you make of this? Is it a political tool, or is it just a very spontaneous reaction by supporters?
I think both. And I would let me begin by pointing out that just in addition to what he said, that in some instances you have people who are trying to compete and to show political, what can I say, is they want to show their allegiance to the principle. So how do you do that? You do that by going an extra mile to actually like now. Let's look at the case in Kisumu. The crowd actually was very receptive of the president, but where they had a challenge was on the deputy president, Tutaki Ruto, as in that was the message. Now you'd see that even though they were in Jubilee t-shirts, the message there was they wanted to send a message directly to the deputy president. So in my view, that I would not look at the subjects, that is the people, I would look at, the objects, I would look at who is the subject in this. So mainly maybe an MCA or a member of parliament who wants to show to the principle that, hey, I'm actually ready to demonstrate my zeal on the ground. The same thing to Kabarnet, the competition to show allegiance maybe to the deputy president as the kingpin of the Rift Valley. So that at times you don't rule out, and that's why for me one thing that I am concerned is at times why aren't we seeing police investigations, even preliminary investigation, telling us it's so and so who funded this. This is where they met, because it's unorganized. That's the first part. And on the issue of spontaneous, you know, politics is an emotional issue. You should appeal to the head, also appeal to the heart. At times there are things that might be said in the rally that are actually not positive, and people feel you are insulting our leaders. I remember the experience in Baringo in 2013, when one of the presidential candidates, one of his campaigners, actually spoke some things that people felt, no, on that you have crossed the border, and they disrupted the rally. So you don't rule out the two schools of thought.
And of course, I'll go back to a lot of what you've said, but Martin, let's engage you on the fact that I'm just drawing from what Vincent has said in terms of investigations and follow-up. So this is a statement received from IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati after the incidences, and he says, and I quote, "The Commission has dispatched its team of investigators to collect more information on the above cases and others." So the investigation that you're talking about, he continues, "We wish to reiterate that under the provisions of the Electoral Code of Conduct, the Commission could take several measures, including fining offenders, suspending campaigns in areas prone to violence, and barring candidates from participating in the elections." Martin, in terms of upholding this electoral code of conduct, what power really does IEBC have to implement this?
It has a lot of powers. IEBC has a lot of powers. In this campaign period, IEBC is the referee. They are the ones who must blow the whistle, whether the game is going off, whether the game is going over. They have to blow the whistle. So on the issue of violence, it's not a question of dispatching. It's a question of being present, knowing that this is likely to happen, and therefore acting on the spot. So we don't have to wait to be able to investigate. So I agree with what my friend Vincent is saying, that it's not about how you go about it. It's about the expectations of people that if a wrong is going to be committed, or a crime is going to be committed, or an electoral offense is going to be committed, IEBC should be on the spot to actually identify it and blow the whistle. So really what we are saying is that the code needs to be enforced, and there's no better enforcer. Not even the police.
There's been a question as to when should this code have been enforced, or when should they have begun enforcing this code?
The code happens in the campaign period, because as soon as the campaign period kicks off officially, that code is effective.
And remember, actually there are some instances where IEBC has actually enforced the code. The example of Siaya, you remember the violence between the campaigns by Gumbo and Governor Rasanga. They've actually suspended campaigns in that period. The challenge with the IEBC in this situation is that they are not demonstrating courage, and they're not demonstrating leadership on the enforcement of the code. So, you know, when you go for small fish, remember this saying by the former chair of KACC, that's Kenya Anti-Corruption, saying that Kenyans want us to fry big fish, but also even small fish are fish. So the challenge is that IEBC is going for the small fish instead of going for the big fish. You can imagine if IEBC tomorrow morning, remember President Kenyatta is the president, head of state of the republic, but also a candidate of the Jubilee administration. Assuming, for example, if IEBC says that we are suspending Jubilee's campaigns, or we are suspending NASA's campaign, you know, that way, the message that will be sent across the board, that if they actually went for Jubilee and they went for NASA, you can imagine a senatorial, an MCA, people are likely to tone down. So for me, I think IEBC needs to up their game. This issue of saying, oh, we have sent our, where were they before because every candidate, they send their campaign agenda and schedule to IEBC before. Now the question is, you're sending investigators after the rally. Where were you before? So I think it's a question of the ball is squarely on IEBC's court. They need to up their game and really occupy their space.
Is there confidence in IEBC delivering that, in your view as a citizen?
Why should I have? Why should they? I have all the confidence. These are people who. This is a body that has been given resources. It has the support of Kenyans. All they need to do is to arise and shine and actually do their part.
So, Martin, in terms of then who do we hold accountable when we have these issues? I mean, Kisumu, Cabinet Thika, it looked like a trend that had begun. Who do we hold accountable as IEBC continue to investigate?
You see, this is the tricky part of it, that when you have people in your uniform heckling one of you, who do you hold accountable? Though you are in a zone that you would think is a stronghold of somebody else. But that's now the case of Kisumu. But even the case of Baringo, when you have people who are next to the dais really making noise, were these your supporters or were these infiltrators? So the issue is that at the end of the day, the parties have to be held accountable. Whether it's true or not, the fact is that if your people are going to, or rather if people are going to act in your name to disrupt other people's rallies, then you are liable. So in this particular case,
Martin, but what happens, you know, you have been in politics, what happens if sorry Michelle,
no, go ahead.
What happens if, for example, I'm running against you and I get my supporters to adorn your colors, and then they come and intimidate?
This is why I said that we need investigations, because why is it that people are in one color and heckling the same color? That's the point where we need to investigate. As to whether I am the one who has planted them, that can also come out of an investigation. The point we are making is that parties have to take responsibilities for the behavior of their supporters.
Because when we've had allegations of parties even hiring their own goons to disrupt their own rallies, so they can blame it on their rivals. I mean, but it sounds like a joke, but the thing is, the very fact that we're speaking about political intolerance 20 days to the election is a question that begs are Kenyans too forgetful? We're coming from the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Just recently on social media, there's been a lot of people sharing the images of, what we saw back then, just to remind Kenyans where we're coming from. Is this a recipe of us going back where we came from?
You cannot rule out. Already the EU Commission, for example, has come out clearly and saying that from their preliminary observation, we are seeing likely trends of violence. Remember, the reason why this kind of behavior occurs is when institutions that are vested with the responsibility of deterring them are actually not exerting their authority. I think at this point we need to hear from the DPP, for example. We need to hear from the criminal investigation departments, them coming out, even this is what we are doing, we are investigating the following leaders, not per se, the element of perception that even at times when things are difficult, when people are seeing institutions are working, because the challenge is, these are young people who, for example, are hired, and we know the challenges of unemployment, the influence of alcohol. We need to see all the institutions that are interested in this process pulling in the same direction, and not waiting for 2 days. We need to be seeing them acting instantaneously. For example, I think if there are hotspots that NCIC that has mapped out, for example, ahead of time, and we know rallies will be there, it is good for the police to, the commissioners to speak on the ground. We welcome these leaders. We are urging their supporters. We should not a proactive enforcement of the code, and together with all other enforcement laws. That, for me, would be a better way of approaching it.
Right.
My take on this, Michelle, is that we're going to have a peaceful election, and I want to be an optimist. I want to say that we all have to take responsibility of what happens in this country. The peace of this country will not just be assured by IBC or by the police. The people who will break the peace of this country are not those people. They are us, citizens, acting either as agents or acting as, people who have been paid. So really, the business of security and peace in this country is our business. And so let's not outsource it. And we must send the message very clearly to Kenyans that they need to uphold peace. They need to tolerate each other. We do not have to agree on everything. In fact, the more we disagree, the better.
Right.
But I must be respected for holding a different opinion, and I should not be vilified or lynched for holding a different opinion. So we need peace in this country. And it's not about institutions.
I mean,
it's about
speaking of peace,
our people.
You think about the numerous peace prayers that we've seen, and there's even more calls for more peace prayers in the country. This is a question we're asking our viewers this morning. What would you term, Martin, as the biggest threat to peace ahead of the elections?
3 things. Number 1 is intolerance. If I don't want to disagree with you agreeably, then it means that it's either my way or the highway. And we must tell each other that, look, elections will come and go, and our lives will continue after 8th of August.
Right.
So we better learn that we shall continue to work, we shall continue to do our normal chores, we shall continue to do our normal businesses to bring bread on the table. The second issue is that we do not have to be incited. I mean, I keep telling Kenyans that the leaders that they fight over have no problem with each other. They work together. When they meet, they hug, they laugh. And they just are good friends. It's only that they are competing over ideas. Now, those ideas shouldn't lead us towards hate and so on. And the third issue really is that we do have enough to do in this country in terms of devolution, in terms of opportunities that we have. And getting your person at the presidency is not the be and all. There's more opportunities that we have, given devolution, that we should be looking at how to manage ourselves better at the lower level. So the competition for the national office should be tempered with the other opportunities that we have, especially with devolution. So really, we should be able to...
I think I would look at it differently, Martin, and Michelle, it is good to pray. Being a believer,
of course it is.
Good to pray.
Our national anthem is a prayer.
It's a prayer in itself. But let us appreciate, Michelle, that there is no foreign country that is going to invade our country. We are not, for example, going to face an imminent war that another country has declared. So if there will be a break of peace, it will be me and you who will fight among each other. So I think the message is we need to do that. After the prayers is that we need to advance the cause that let's love each other. Let us respect each other's opinion, as Martin has said. But also, when I look at the context we are dealing with, remember, many things have been politicized. I think if you even look at devolution, in our case, devolution nation has devolved resources, it devolved power, it devolved opportunities. Now these opportunities, the competition has taken a tribal narrative, it has taken a clans narrative, and even taken villages. So you have a situation whereby an MCA, people see that when an MCA from our area gets the position, we will get to benefit. Right. So the competition, I think the way we have managed our political processes is not right, whereby competition, we use the tribal division.
There are positive things that are happening. I know your narrative is on the negative side. No, there are positive things happening on devolution.
No, I think a lot, because we agreed to disagree, and I am pointing out to the issues that needs to be fixed so that the country has a peaceful election. Right. It's true, Martin, that there are good things happening in our country. Even the economy is growing in the midst of the challenges. But for us who are watching from outside, we have a responsibility to point out to the things that we need to fix so that the house does not come down. You know, if you live in a house that has a leaking roof, however good it is, if you don't fix that gap, so these are the small things, Martin. I'm pointing out that it's the small foxes, the little foxes that are really spoiling our garden that is about to bloom. Because I can assure you, Michelle, as an economist, if you look at our economic growth rate from 1981 all the way to our current period, every time we've had an election, what has happened? Our economy has gone down. So I think it is important for me to point out that let us fix the small foxes that are really destroying our garden so that the economy can bloom.
Just to engage you as an economist, like taking a look at the front page of the Nation today, it is looking at the Kenyan election from a regional perspective, the East African community, and how they stand to be affected with either outcome of the general election. You know, they suffered a lot after the 2007-2008 general election, especially countries like Uganda. And so with these reports of political intolerance, what is that likely to do to Kenya's economy already in relation to our neighbors? Even before we go regional, look at the level of unemployment that we have among our young people. The only way we can be able to fix unemployment is to grow the economy. And when we grow the economy and our regional partners are actually watching us, then these opportunities are likely to provide the employment opportunities that our young people ought to get. So it is important, as these conversations are happening, to point out on the importance of actually, as in transiting this period peacefully, as Martin pointed out initially. It is good for the economy. I can tell you currently you can see from those of us who are observing, there is a lot of people are holding back. The investors, the level of spending and investment is not, you can see a cautionary approach. And I can tell you, if we transit this election very well, you will see the results in the next 6 months. Absolutely.
But
Martin,
on that
final
point,
comments on
Michelle,
this?
is that politics affects economics. In fact, politics drives economics. And in elections anywhere, in the US, in the UK, brings economics to some kind of stance, because then you're watching. The impact of elections is that then you're either having major policy shifts or you're anticipating a new policy direction, or you're anticipating the status quo. So either way, business have to stand and watch and see what happens. So obviously elections, not just in Kenya and this region, generally elections have a way of slowing economics, and that's why we need to get over this quickly, not campaigning throughout, because we know our problem is that we are actually in the 2017 elections, and some people have started launching their bid for 2022. Now that's the problem.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately we're out of time, and we'll have to wind it up there, but of course this has to be done peacefully as we head to the August 8th general elections. That is the dawn debate with lawyer Martin Olo and economic analyst Vincent Kimosop, which brings us to a break on Morning Express. Do stay with us. When we come back, we give you a look at the top stories making headlines, and then we get into a conversation reviewing the politics of the weekend.